Over the last couple of decades, temperatures on Earth have increased substantially. This is mostly due to human-induced climate change. We notice this ourselves as well. The winters get wetter and the summers very dry and hot. We have all kinds of gadgets to help us cope with this change in climate, like the air conditioning units and raincoats. Other species have no air conditioning or raincoats, so they have to adapt in order to survive this shifting climate. Species adapt differently to the changing climate, causing events of species that are normally perfectly timed to each other to change. The specific timing of these events that species go through each year is called phenology, and this is very important for species survival and fitness. Fall is such an event that and is characterized by beautiful trees with all kinds of colors of leaves. Nowadays, fall is getting warmer and warmer, and this jeopardizes these beloved colors. You might have noticed that the colors of fall are induced later, and their peak is later as well. We can notice this change in phenology ourselves, but there are also a lot of species that change their phenology that go unnoticed. Different kinds of species change the way they behave. Think about flowering in plants, migration patterns in birds, and spawning times in fish. The impact of climate change on phenology is noticeable in several species. The migration patterns of many species of birds shift due to the warming climate. The bar-tailed godwit is a bird that migrates from the west coast of Africa to the Siberian tundra to breed and stops at staging sites along the way to replenish its food reserves. Its food, crane flies, emerge earlier because the snow melts earlier in spring. The godwits should depart from Africa earlier, but that is not how they deal with this situation. Instead, they take shorter refueling stops at their staging sites to arrive on time. This leads to a poorer fitness and thus survival rate of the bar-tailed godwit. Another example is the color of the blue oceans, which changes as the temperatures are increasing. Researchers have analyzed 20 years of satellite data and noticed that the colors of the oceans are quite literally changing. Over 56% of the world's oceans are experiencing a color shift. And the cause? A difference in plankton density. As oceans warm, currents become more irregulated and layers of the ocean become more stratified. The effect of this is that warmer regions don't mix with colder regions as well anymore. Different kinds of phytoplankton are differently adapted to different kinds of temperature, and without the mixture of cold and warm waters, a layer of phytoplankton develops on the oceans when they normally die when the water moves. This means that the normal life cycle is prolonged. Phytoplankton has an organelle called chlorophyll. This chlorophyll has a green color, and that is why it has the ability to photosynthesize. This green color is what we now exhibit from the satellite pictures. The oceans are therefore literally becoming greener. Luckily, scientists and conservationists work effortlessly to increase the likelihood of species surviving climate change. For example, by moving animals to their respective climate when certain areas get warmer, which is called assisted migration. This habituates the animals to their respective environment and makes sure essential temperature cues remain the same, like for example breeding season. Not only can animals thrive better in more northern regions, but plants as well, allowing more tropical plants to habituate the northern hemisphere, habilitating their flowering and growing seasons. Already, things like citrus can be grown in Georgia and avocados in Italy. Fortunately, species are reacting to the shifts in timed events. Scientists are working hard on researching the effects of climate change on phenology, and each day we learn more and more about the consequences. With this new knowledge, we take the right measures for each species and help them survive climate change.